Genshin has been around for a while, and when a game is around for a while and it stays healthy, typically it's a good idea to go back and rework some things. And well, let's just say they haven't exactly shown a willingness or interest to do this, which makes me sad. However, that doesn't exactly stop me from wishing for change, or thinking about it. After all, why is a business would you spend time and money going back and reworking an old, clunky, split-scaling character that just borderline doesn't function when you could just release a new one with the same problems that made people forget about the old one? Oh, come on, I'm kidding. People forgot about Shinya long before Dia came along. Anyway, number 1, Shatter. One of the worst reactions in this entire game, and the only time it is remotely okay to use this is when it just kind of happens. You're not focusing on it, you're not exactly trying to do it, but it's kind of happening and it's not interfering with anything. So what do I think should actually happen to Shatter? Should we just buff its damage up significantly? Well, that is one way to fix it. I just think there's so many more interesting things you can do with it. For one, I've always thought the Shatter should just be some multiplicative bonus to something that hits it. You know, things like plunging attacks, large hits from a claymore, or even pyro damage. You know, basically just the things that can already proc Shatter but also pyro, because honestly, I think it's a little bit weird that melt doesn't have some kind of bonus for a frozen enemy. Even if it's just something like instead of 2 times damage like a normal melt, it's 2.5 or even 3x. Physical, on the other hand, physical doesn't even outright break Shatter normally, and nor do I think it exactly should, but it could be cool if it did something like store the amount of damage you hit against a frozen target, and then that added up and contributed to some final multiplier where the damage you stored was then multiplied and done in a big hit to the Shatter target. Hell, could even be cool if you made that AoE. I believe that there are so many cool things that Shatter could have done. It has so much potential as this really rewarding high setup, high payoff playstyle. Instead, we have a garbage reaction, just like number 2, Crystallize. Another underwhelming reaction that instead of doing something really useful and interesting is just pooping out little elemental skittles all over your battlefield. I'm gonna be honest, I actually like the idea of Crystallize. I like that there's this tanky reaction. Main issue being is it's just not reliable as a sole form of survivability, and if it's not helping you in that regard, it's really just doing nothing. So how can you fix Crystallize? I do have a few ideas, but they are rather quick, and they're not exactly the best thought out things, but I think they're more interesting than what Crystallize is now, which is a really low bar to beat. First idea, when you pick up the Crystallize, it does a nova of damage of the element of the Crystallized shield. Does it apply the element? Well, it could. That would certainly make it a little bit more interesting. It would actually make it so that they could cause reactions, and that could be interesting for team building. However, I acknowledge that it could also cause some issues, causing reactions that you may not actually intend to be doing. But given that Geo teams don't normally care what reactions are going on, I don't know how much of a problem it would really be. It could perhaps cause some issues, you know, if you're running Albedo in a team just as a typical support. Of course, it might cause some issues, but I also think it would be really fun. It would also give you some reason to build elemental mastery, aside from just making that weak little shield a little bit stronger. And borrowing from or building on the last idea, make Crystallize actually stack so that the shield gets stronger, but that could be a little overpowered. We can't just have Crystallize giving you eventually a Zhongli strength shield. So what do? Make it so that the shield stacks, and after maybe 3 or 5 stacks, your shield strength will actually explode and deal the element of the shield as a nova of damage. This way, you're actually incentivized to kind of protect your shield and not use it as a shield. This would also make EM a lot more of a valuable stat for Crystallize, which based on all my husk pieces with a lot of EM, I could really use that. My final idea involves keeping Crystallize mostly as it is, but actually add a energy recharging component to it. Make it so that when you pick up a Crystallize, you get a single energy particle based on the element that it is. If EM could also somehow increase the amount of particles or the potency of that single particle, that would be great too. I admit that that is not the most exciting thing in the world. It's just an energy particle. It's not really changing anything. It's not flashy. It's not exciting, but hell, it could make Geo supports a little bit more exciting, you know, for when we get the next one in 2029. Number 3, the Archaic Petra artifact set. I don't exactly have a lot to say about this. I just hate using it. The bonus is actually pretty good. The actual way you activate it is garbage. I really don't think it would be too much to ask if just having this 4 set on anyone in your party would make it so that anyone could pick up the shards, and that would activate the bonus. Because this bonus is actually quite nice. It's not as appealing as something as easy to activate as Tenacity to the Millilith or Noblesse Oblige. damage. Number 4, burning. Technically an old reaction, but it's kind of new because we weren't able to control it for the longest time. And now that we can, we don't want to. Why don't we want to? Because the damage sucks. Like, sure, burning has some really niche uses, like Dia burning Melt Ganyu, which, you know, isn't actually that bad of a team. I love Melt Ganyu and it's a pretty fun variant, but you're not exactly running burning for the damage. It's to just enable pyro application, but it's a shame that we don't run for the damage. We don't exactly have damage over time effects in Genshin Impact. So to have the prospect of burning be our first one was pretty exciting. Now it always seems that most people just want burning to be this constant source of pyro application and maybe some damage. I would much rather it actually be a strong damage over time effect. I just want a trail of burning hilichurl following behind me, dropping off one by one. So yeah, basically just make burning stack. You can put a limit on it because I think it would probably need some kind of limit, but make it stack. Number 5, characters such as Chi-Chi, Barbara, and Noelle not gaining energy from their elemental skills. Now just giving them energy regen would work in theory. Those would be buffs. However, in the current state of the game, you need to do damage to an enemy with an ability to actually generate energy. And while Noelle and Chi-Chi do deal damage, they aren't exactly ideal to do so. Noelle, you basically need to be hugging the enemy to actually cause damage with the formation of the shield, and Chi-Chi's little skill isn't exactly the biggest range. So I'm going to propose something I know I think a lot of people are going to hate and have a negative reaction to. Rework energy gain as a whole. Very simply, just make it so that you don't actually have to hit enemies to get the energy particles. You could even make it like half the energy if you're concerned with just people spamming abilities just to get energy up before they ever enter a fight. But you can't do that in the Abyss, so I think it's totally fine. Number 6, wishing rewards, particularly the 3-star ones. I want the 3-star weapons to be replaced with basically anything else. A tiny chunk of Mora, a little bit of character EXP books, artifacts of either 3-star or 4-star variety. I don't really care. Any of that stuff to me is more valuable than a bunch of crappy weapons. You can keep giving us 3-star weapons on the weapon banner so people actually have some way to get like thrilling tales if they trashed all theirs while they were leveling. But I think the character banner should give some resources or something that's just a little bit more related to building the character itself rather than the weapon they're wielding. Especially due to the fact that 3-star weapons really just aren't worth that much. Even in the case that we just got the same amount that a weapon is worth roughly, but in character EXP, I'll still take it. Enhancement ore really isn't that hard to farm. Just do some mining. Number 7, the Battle Pass rewards. Genshin's Battle Pass is actually relatively generous in my experience. You get quite a bit of rewards for building your characters, and it does quite a bit to just help your income of every important resource. On top of that, it is incredibly and laughably easy to max out. If you're playing the game regularly and doing roughly everything you should be doing on a day-to-day basis, you're going to complete this thing well before the patch ends. Now that's actually a good thing. I think that is healthy and a really big upside to the Battle Pass. It's not stressful and it's very easy to do. Regardless, I still have 3 things I would change. First up, the weapons. Really simple here. Just add more. We need more Battle Pass weapons because longtime players are starting to loop and refine multiple copies of the same weapon. Don't get rid of the old ones, just add more so we have more choice. Second, the talent books. Just let us choose from every available talent from every region every time we have the choice. Don't make it segmented, don't make it rotate, just let us have a choice. And number 3, infinite rewards. Now, I don't want it to be crazy rewards. In fact, I think it's really bad if they are really good rewards. Basically, if you just repeat the level 1, 2, and 3 rewards infinitely, both paid and free versions, I think that's adequate enough. It's not enough to feel bad at not getting them, but it's enough to be like, at least I'm getting something. Number 8, every single goddamn character infusion. What exactly do I want? I want 2 things, and they're very simple things. Firstly, when a character has an infusion in their own kit, it will never be overridden by any other character's infusion no matter what. It has to run out before it can take on a second. The second thing I want is very simple. I want any ability that adds an infusion, whether it be like Xiao or Ito, or especially for Sino, to be able to persist these effects when swapping off a field. We've gotten to a point in the game where really long infusions such as Sino's can actually be seen as a downside because many supports will request, or rather they encourage you to swap off well before that timer ever gets to naturally end. So it is supposed to be a good thing, which is a really long-lasting infusion just ends up being a negative because the long duration often means it also has a long cooldown. Number 9, and this one is a little bit of a duo one because it's Diluc's A1 passive and or Claymore charge attacks as a whole. The issue here is that Diluc's A1 passive really sucks because it's based off Claymore charge attacks, which, as most of us know, also suck. So, you know, while you could just fix Diluc's A1 passive and just make it so good should that Claymore charge tax become worth it, I would much rather just Claymore charge tax be worth it. So how do we do that? How do we make people who don't normally do Claymore charge tax actually want to start doing it? My idea is this: every Claymore attack shares one special thing that other weapons charge attacks don't share. You hold the button down to continuously drain stamina and do a special charge attack. So what are we going to do to it, or rather what I wish they would do to it, is make it so that the longer you hold the button down, it continues to get faster and faster and faster. Hell, even ramp the damage up to alongside it. And go even one step beyond that and make it so the two different versions, either the Beyblade or just the Rapid Slash, I don't really know what to call it, are a little bit different. One, the Beyblade, aka the spin to win, keeps getting bigger and bigger the longer you hold the button down, on top of getting stronger. As for the other style of charge attack, that one is all about finisher damage and is really your big meaty hit. The longer you stay in it, the stronger that final hit is going to be. I honestly think these would be so fun to play around with, and they would really value something like Deluxe A1 passive that helps you do it for longer. And one thing you would probably also need to do is make it so that there is no limit to how long you can hold it like it currently is. You won't have to do the stupid open the map thing to exploit it, and you can just hold it as long as you have stamina. Number 10, the Artifact Strongbox. I have been pro Strongbox since the day this thing came out, even when it had basically no artifact sets in it, and the ones that were in there, just not a lot of people actually used. So I think it's time for a change. Instead of this thing that 3.0 is introduced where we add some older sets but only up to a certain point, it's time to just get it over with and make it so that every artifact set is in the Strongbox. Like maybe when a new artifact set comes out, maybe we have to wait at least one patch at most to get it in the Strongbox, so we do have to farm the domain for a little bit. That's understandable. I get that you do still want us to go into the new domains. It's just waiting an entire patch cycle for hopefully some older sets to be added up to a certain point are kind of a bummer, especially when there's a lot of artifact domains where we only want one of the sets. So is there anything that I didn't mention that you think desperately needs a rework besides Dia? Because everyone's gonna say Dia. I certainly have some more, but I'm gonna end it here for now. So thank you to my members and my patrons for supporting me as always. Thank you to you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Attaboy!